What's going on, guys? This is the Red Rogue, and there has certainly been a lot of stuff going on this week. With the launch of Shadowlands and people leveling to 60, or not being able to level to 60 because of a 6-hour server queue, or because their realm is taken down, or DCs that put you in a 2-hour queue. There is just a lot of things Shadowlands oriented, and especially once you reach max level, a lot of time-gated things. So I figured it'd be a good idea to have a bit of a checklist for daily and weekly activities that you might want to keep up on as you venture through the Shadowlands and get ready for raiding and Mythic Plus and things like that. So hopefully this video will keep you on track so you know what to take care of and when to do it. So this guide will go over all the things I recommend keeping up with on a daily and weekly basis, at least for the early parts of the expansion. Things will of course change as new features are added and time gating is removed, but all of these things are pretty important to stay caught up on if you're a moderately competitive player, and I'll explain why as we go through this. The video will be segmented into chunks so you can hear a little bit more information about each topic. This will also be directly from a PvE perspective, so if I don't mention that many PvP activities, well, yeah, that's why. I really just don't partake much in PvP, so I don't want to weigh in too much on content that I'm not that well versed in. Oh, and as a quick hello and thank you sort of thing, I have 2 new members of the channel's Patreon I'd like to introduce. So welcome and thank you so much to both Nalia and Kilgosh. Your support is truly appreciated, and I'll try to keep coming out with all sorts of Shadowlands content to help educate and keep folks up to date. So we'll be doing a quick rundown of things you should be keeping an eye on a daily basis, as well as on a weekly basis. Now, the big thing to remember is this really comes down to what you want out of your character and the content you plan on doing, as otherwise the easy answer for someone pushing like Mythic World first would be just to do virtually everything in the game every day forever on like 4 characters. However, that is obviously not what a lot of people either have time to do or want to do in the first place, so instead I'll cover things that I would consider a bit more in line with PvE oriented players who are pretty competitive but not treating WoW like a job, and instead just want to get their hands on some decent gear and stuff. So what I'd say first and foremost is to make sure you take care of your Covenant callings every day. These are basically the new emissary quests for Shadowlands. You'll know which ones these are because you'll see people with these blue exclamation points with shields surrounding them floating over their head. Their position, of course, will change every day based on who's giving you the Covenant calling. However, if you click on the Covenant emblem on your minimap like mine here, you'll pull up your campaign progress and you'll see these people's faces for icons here. Clicking on them will open your map and should give you a better idea of where in your Covenant Sanctum they're located. The reason you want to do these is because they can give a number of rewards, such as the new Anima currency, gear, conduits, and vendor trash that sells for pretty decent amounts of money. World quests in general are something you'll want to keep an eye on, as they'll offer a number of rewards. Primarily, you'll notice some of the more traditional rewards like gear, gold, and reputation tokens. However, you'll also want to keep an eye out for any conduits or anima that show up as rewards. Conduits can come from a variety of sources, but early on your character may get lucky and get some of your better conduits early, like even before getting into dungeons or PvP or raiding. Anima will also be important for a number of reasons, but primarily you'll use anima to upgrade your Covenant Sanctum, such as things like your transportation system, your anima conductor, the command table, and your Covenant specific bonus feature. Those are a bit more complicated topics for another video, but just keep that in mind that world quests are very consistent sources of anima in the game. You'll eventually also use anima for buying all your cool transmog rewards and stuff from your Covenant, so that's another reason you might want to make sure to get those taken care of and to stock up on it early. You can also earn anima from killing rares and finding treasures in each of the zones if you're really interested in getting a lot of it. You'll also want to make sure you're going to the Maw every day and taking care of whatever dailies that show up on the map or that Venari has to offer you. The reason you'll want to do this is because this is the only way to increase your reputation with her, and she is the reputation vendor who will sell all of these important things for Torghast runs, such as increasing the likelihood of finding better anima powers, or items that help you clear Torghast easier. She's also the only source of the item that allows you to add sockets to your gear, much like how Wrathion did for us in patch 8.3 of Battle for Azeroth. A caveat to this though is that sockets can only be put on Shadowlands items that don't already have one, and can only be done on helmets, necklaces, bracers, belts, or rings. She'll also offer an item that improves the quality of one of your lowest item level conduits, which might be really useful for you if there are conduits from certain content you just don't do regularly that you have low level versions of, or you're absurdly unlucky and just can't get a higher level version of it. In general about the Maw though, and this is something you'll find out on your own very quickly, apparently the Jailer's hatred for you kinda works like it does in Grand Theft Auto for whatever reason, and he has like an Angry-O-meter, which is seen at the top of your screen. You'll really want to keep an eye on this, because as you piss him off, he'll start sending more annoying things to harass you. And if you max out that meter, then you literally can't earn any more Stygia, which is the currency you need to buy stuff from Venari, or reputation with Venari until this resets the next day. You'll ideally want to max this out every time you go to the Maw after you've done your dailies, because you'll be very likely to lose out on some reputation and Stygia if you don't, as most of the time to reach the dailies you'll end up killing things or rare spawns won't be active that would otherwise give you those rewards too. Also, if you die in the Maw, you lose 20% of your Stygia that you have on you, and it ends up on like a corpse like an old school Diablo where you had to run back and get your body. So you'll have to run back to where you died, and if you die again before doing that, then you permanently lose that 20% from the original death. Oh, and there's no war mode bonuses, so bear that in mind. I'm not sure if this will change in the future, as this seems very excessive, but maybe not. You have been warned ahead of time though. For weekly things, there are a few activities you'll want to try to keep up with if possible. There are thankfully a number of catch-up mechanics for them, but for those that like to stay up to date, you want to make sure you're always doing your Renown weekly quests. Each week there should be 2 quests to improve your Renown with your Covenant. The week I'm putting this up is from the launch of the expansion, so things aren't quite the same as they'll be in the future, but you should eventually get 2 of them to take care of. The first one, which we've seen already, is a simple task of collecting 1,000 Anima. This is a big part of why I mentioned you'll want to keep an eye out for those Anima World quests, as you'll need to earn at least 1,000 a week to get your level of Renown. The other quest, which was on the beta and we presume will start after this first week is over, is to rescue souls from the Maw. These souls will also be used to help improve your Covenant Sanctum, as they're one of the resources required for Sanctum upgrades, making this another good reason to keep up with this stuff. Worst case, even if you fall behind, it's not the end of the world. As Blizzard has already mentioned, they intend for endgame content such as dungeons and raids and whatnot to reward Renown if you aren't all the way caught up, or for people getting a second character set up. For the gear junkies and early level 60 characters out there, I really strongly recommend clearing as many Mythic dungeons as you can early on, simply because our rank 4 of our conduits will come from Mythic dungeons for a lot of people, and quite a lot of legendary powers are loot options from them as well as the item level 184 gear. You will need to have unlocked access to the Rune Carver in Torghast before legendary powers will drop, just as a heads up, so make sure you do up to that point in the story. Also, of course, the gear will help you do your world quests, Torghast runs, Mythic Plus progression, raiding progression, and all of that other stuff naturally. If you can't do Mythic dungeons yet, or Mythic Plus ones once they open the season, then try to get into the heroic level dungeon finder when you're able to. You need at least an average of item level 155 to queue for heroic dungeons, just as a heads up, and generally it will offer you a chance at 171 item level gear, your conduits, and your legendary powers as well. Speaking of Torghast and legendary powers and all that, you want to make sure you're doing, if possible, every layer of Torghast available for your weekly Soul Ash. Soul Ash is the currency required to craft legendary items, so you'll absolutely need this to make any legendaries, and the higher rank you decide to make your legendary, the more Soul Ash you're gonna need. I plan on doing a revised legendary crafting guide soon, as when this video is being made we actually don't have the ability to make them just yet due to lacking enough Soul Ash. As a reminder to those of you who are doing your Torghast runs, you only earn Soul Ash the first time you successfully complete a layer, so you'll need to do the higher layers to get more. There will be 2 wings of Torghast open every week, and when you complete a layer, it will unlock access to the next higher layer in both wings of Torghast that are open. So for example, if you clear all the way to layer 3 in the first wing, then you can walk over to the other wing that's open and you'll already have layer 3 available to attempt. You'll also earn all of the rewards of the highest layer and lower layers put together if you skip right to your highest one available. So you can save a bit of time and not have to do every single layer every single time just for your Soul Ash. Also, as food for thought, I recommend doing at least layer 3 or higher once you're able to anyways, as there are some legendary powers locked behind layer 3 of each wing of Torghast depending on your class, though you'll want to check for each individual class and spec for which ones are available from where. Wowhead has a pretty thorough article on the subject that I'll link in a comment below, but there seem to be a number of Google spreadsheets floating around on the internet that cover it also. And a big thing that is kind of variable is the Great Vault, which won't be available until the PvP season, Mythic Plus season, and Raid are all open. This is more or less your weekly reward chest for doing whatever content you prefer to do, but it has a catch. Basically, there are threshold requirements that you'll need to meet to unlock a chance at earning an item. You can earn items from raiding, Mythic Plus, and PvP. There are 3 threshold requirements you can meet for each form of content, resulting in 9 total choices each week if you do literally everything. However, and here is the big however, you only get to pick 1 piece out of all the choices. So even if you unlock 9 pieces of rewards and they all are in your weekly chest, you only get to choose 1. As a heads up with the rewards you'll get, they're specific to each form of content, so you'll only get raid gear out of the raid reward chances. Your reward gear is also based on the difficulty level you complete things at. So as an example, if you clear the whole raid on normal but only 3 bosses on heroic, only your first option of the 3 thresholds would have a heroic item level piece. The other 2 would be for normal mode. You can also only get loot off of bosses you've actually killed, so there's no Sire Denathrius gear just for clearing the first 3 bosses. For Mythic Plus, the reward concept is virtually the same, with the level of the key affecting your reward. So if you only did 1 key at a plus 10 keystone level and the other 9 were at plus 8, then only your first option would be a reward from a plus 10, while the other 2 options would be from plus 8s. Again, as of this video, it's not active in the game, so I'm gonna have to assume that the PvP gear level will be based on your rating, so you'll definitely want to check in on your Great Vault progress in the future to see how you're coming along with what content you want to do for your extra weekly reward. While not out at the time of this video either, you'll want to defeat the world bosses that become active on a weekly rotation. These world bosses will reward some pretty decent item level gear, so they're great for alt as you're getting up to speed on them, as well as on your main characters if you're checking this video out early in the expansion. They'll give item level 207 gear, and 200 item level conduits while they're out. Some may even have legendary powers for your class, so definitely check their loot tables in the encounter journal to see if you need anything from them. The conduits they drop will always be the one that buffs your Covenant class-specific ability, so for some classes or specs this might be really awesome, and for others this might be an unimpressive reward to get, so just bear that in mind. And there you go folks. I consider this a pretty good list for things you can take care of daily and weekly for objectives. It really depends on how serious you are about the game and how super competitive you are about it, as well as what you want out of it in the first place. So like if you're someone who just wants to log in and pick some herbs and do some dailies here and there just to get your emissary done, then that's fine. Or if you're someone who wants to clear the entire board every day and clear them all every day and all that, then there's nothing wrong with that either. It really just depends on what you want out of it. So I can't really tell you that part, but I can at least let you know what things are done on a daily and weekly basis that can give you a pretty good amount of loot, legendaries, and currencies that you'll need for other things like that. I hope this video was helpful to you, and if so, any likes, comments, or new subscribers are all fantastic ways of showing your support for the channel. If you're new around in my little corner of the YouTube algorithm, then I'd like to welcome you to come check out the rest of the channel. I do new uploads every weekday on a variety of content, ranging from things like guides, tutorials, add-on stuff, week aura stuff, and of course rogue-specific things. I'd also like to take this time to thank all of my regular viewers, commenters, subscribers, and especially my patrons, who all help make these Shiba Shenanigans possible. Thank you all so much for watching. This is the Red Rogue, and I'll see you guys around.